I had a bus to catch in 10 minutes, and the only way I'd make it was with a pair of scissors. Before the accident, the first psychologist prescribed this and other visualization exercises for my success. There was one in which I imagined a red windmill turning blue with positivity and blowing away fear. This one involved a hairy monster, which I was to confront with scissors and trim into a small, manageable form. It's wonders what a new do can do for a girl. Catching the bus was never a problem until getting out of bed was, but you can't make excuses. Get out of bed. Get out of bed, I told myself. Use the imperative, is what Dr. Ogden had advised. Affirmative statements only. If you say, don't do this, you're thinking about what you don't want to do, not what you do. Except when I listened to him, I mostly thought about things I didn't want that would happen if I said, don't do this. The problem with sports psychologists is they have limited imaginations. It's all if-then statements. If you practice, then you will perfect. If you believe, then you will achieve. But if you think wrongly, then what? This had been my problem with the triple sow cow. I kept watching myself fall, or collide with the barrier of the rink, or chicken it out. Imagining got to be like death. I knew it would happen, but not how. By the time Dr. Ogden got to if-then statements, I wouldn't trust someone like me with my own well-being. And here's another if-then statement. If I was still skating, then I would not have needed to try to get out of bed. Now I could hear the thin clock arm marking seconds, populous and bland as rabbits. Tick-tock, tick-tock, tick. I knew the difference between the rhythm of a metronome and a song. I tried to materialize scissors for the exercise, but instead saw only a 4-post bed. Sit, roll over, fetch, I commanded. But the mind is like most teenagers. If all the other kids were jumping off bridges with underpants on their heads, should I too? I used to ask my mother when she suggested that maybe I would rather go to school, like other kids, see movies, eat cookies. It would be before businesses were open, and she'd be driving me to the rink. I would have woken her, scrambled egg whites, brushed my teeth. Puberty could end my life, I knew back then. There were girls from the rink who were shoo-ins until bodily curves flattened their ability to jump faster than you can say circumference. I didn't know how it happened. I was 16, and I was maybe getting too old. I made calculations. For the 2010 Olympics, I'd be 17. In 2014, I'd be 21, and no one skates in the Olympics at 25. And of course, I'd be a joke at the competitions without the triple sow cow. So I fell for hours. It was the way I tried. I came home with bruises on my legs that blued and grained and yellowed every day I failed to perfect. But I didn't want comfort. I wanted rarity. Think diamonds, I used to tell my mother. Supply and demand. That's why the cost, and that's why they're worth it. God help the man that falls for you, she would say, seeing the violence of ambition bloom bruised beneath my skin. But back then, I thought I would never lean on a person. I knew I could generate my own wind in still indoor air, cutting through the cold, rising and turning and falling alone. I could study forensically ice sketchings, the circular storm of a well-centered spin, the clean cavity of a toe pick stab into a Lutz, the overt curve of a poor jump. In the hard-tempered ice, I could read the history of chasing dreams. I knew then I would have to take matters into my own hands. If you have small hands, then it's easier to use a toothbrush, Ryan, an Olympic shoo-in, had told me once in the boys' locker room. I needed to be taught or starve a little. I can't, I said. Nothing's coming up. I looked at him from the floor, forearms braced to the toilet. Practice makes perfect, he said. And of course he was right. You've got to believe a guy that can lose 6 pounds in 3 days with a round of amphetamines. Bulbous things don't rotate well, Ryan said, crossing his arms. And even as I reached to undo my breakfast again, I thought of planets, though I knew it was silly to think about a thing so big its shape cannot be seen by the eye, so big its arc appears flat when the edge between perfection and everything else is smaller even than the eye can see. Just take the triple sow cow. It is hurtling from a quarter inch of steel into the air for less than a second, rotating 3 times and landing one-footed on ice. It is swindling physics. It is knowing that a nudge of tilt, a movement glancing toward lateness, is failure. It is birthing a natural beauty. And this is for what Dr. Ogden had prescribed monsters. When I told him I was afraid of not having it, he told me, "You don't have it until you do." But after the accident, after monsters and windmills had failed as I crashed in a bloody mass of imperfection, the doctor who didn't deal in affirmations told me I was lucky even to be able to walk. Some people lose their ability to interpret taste with neck trauma, he said. Fortunately, your nerves appear normal. I don't want to interpret pudding, I said. I want to skate.